Hi, it's Albert Bates, and I'm coming to you from my home at the farm in Summertown, Tennessee. I want to say a few words before we start because I used some artificial intelligence to prepare this, and it's not perfect.
Привіт, це Albert Bates, і я звертаюся до вас зі свого дому на фермі в Сомертауні, Теннессі. Я хочу сказати кілька слів перш ніж ми почнемо, бо я використав трохи штучного інтелекту, щоб підготувати це, і це не ідеально.
I thought it'd be easier to do it that way. I would have more time to show you a lot of slides if we didn't have to do the sequential translation with every slide. So, to speed things up, I used a program called Owl that translates my voice into Ukrainian. And I have to say, it's pretty weird at times, not just listening to it in English, but also it messes up some of the words. Like it won't say cob very easily, or straw bale, or hyper adobe, but it tries. And give it a little bit of a break here and let's try it out. And forgive me if it's annoying. I can answer questions later.
This presentation compares natural building systems by performance, cost, degree of difficulty, structure, insulation, water, safety, labor, durability, climate management, and carbon storage. This is where I am sitting right now. It used to be a yurt. I am going to run through my personal experiences before I speak more generally. We had to redo the foundation to support 2 floors and a grass roof. We used the cedar mill ends from a local Amish sawmill. This is a waste material that is usually burnt in the winter for firewood. The doors and windows are also secondhand purchases or found at dumps or abandoned buildings. One thing I paid for was blown cellulose insulation. It is made from waste paper and cardboard usually. In this case, it was used dollar bills from the Kentucky Mint. So I now have a house made of money. After insulating, we used an earthen plaster, which also included about 5% biochar. This regulates humidity inside and freshens the air. The finish coat is a local red clay that provides a nice color. The original yurt had a skylight, which in Mongolia is called the Eye of God, so we decided to keep that feature. To prepare for the living roof, we laid down a carpet sandwich. The bottom carpet protected the liner from nails. Then came the liner. The top carpet layer gave the grass something to root into. We also used biochar in the soil mixture to manage moisture. I used bamboo for the trim, inside and out. This shows the bamboo interior trim, but note also that I kept the original door to the yurt, which I used to access the balcony from the upstairs bedroom. When finished, it was featured in an architectural magazine, Dwell. What is natural building? Brick, clay, straw, wood, bamboo, and lime are core ingredients across many natural building traditions. I have added an important addition to the field by including biochar, because it has both climate change importance and added qualities for all building styles. It's the earliest dwellings for which we have records were seasonal hunting camps. This structure housed 10 to 30 people. More than science, it is right living. Just as we manage national parks, where we promote the growth of some species and restrain the growth of others, we are working to construct buildings using an ecosystem approach where we can promote the microbes we want to have indoors. I heard someone say that you are only as healthy as your gut, and that's why many people eat probiotic yogurt to promote a healthy gut flora, and that's ultimately what we do. We want to use this concept to promote a healthy group of microorganisms inside. There are many reasons to get away from industrial building. They are unhealthy, unecological, and the prices are not fair. Good design is like designing your life. It realizes your dreams. It can start with a simple sketch or a clay model. Clean failures occur when one material is asked to perform all 6 jobs. A strong design assigns each function to each of 6 components as we go. Earth cob adobe stone earth bag is thermal mass, not insulation. Thick earthen walls can feel stable and comfortable, particularly in high diurnal swing climates, but they usually do not meet insulation targets without an additional insulation strategy. Cob and adobe share broadly similar earthen thermal behavior, while light clay straw is designed as an insulation. Straw, hemp, and biochar are most useful in low density or porous layers, insulation plasters infill, and selected mortars. Is how I make biochar weekly. I make 1 wheelbarrow full in about 45 minutes. The fire burns from the top down, so no smoke. Then it is quenched when the coals are still black, not white ash, to retain the mineralized carbon. Bicarbon began being used in building materials in Switzerland. Was learned that paints and plasters work much in the same way that a charcoal filter on a cigarette does. They also remove pollen, mold, cigarette smoke, and dust as they regulate indoor humidity. They take ethylene from the air and food storage areas. They block electromagnetic smog. Entrepreneurially target rich. As we speak, many of these kinds of systems are going in around the world, sparked by thought leaders and astute entrepreneurs possibly tied to cryptocurrencies. These are profits to be made, but I would caution those entering the field to stay small and to help those in greatest need first. Stone is one of the oldest materials and also one of the most durable. The Peru sits upon one of the most seismically active zones, where the Nazca Plate subducts beneath the South American plate, generating frequent, powerful earthquakes. Inca engineers developed sophisticated techniques to build earthquake-resistant structures without modern technology. Terraces serve dual purposes as agricultural platforms and massive retaining walls that stabilize entire hillsides, demonstrating an understanding of soil mechanics and slope stability. Working with stone is both beautiful and durable. Cob is really a universal building material, which is why I use it with pretty much every other style. Loose straw can be lightly coated with clay slip and packed into forms or framing cavities. Key is light clay. The clay coats fibers but should not fill all air spaces. A frame-first approach lets builders roof the structure before placing moisture-sensitive bales under the roof. The method is called Nebraska style, letting the bale walls carry the load of the roof. Is Nebraska style, where the bales bear the weight of the roof. Note the tie-downs, which pre-compress the walls rather than waiting for gravity and the roof load to do that. Threaded steel rod does the same thing, anchoring bolts in the floor or foundation wall to the wooden top plate on the bales and tightening down to compress. For bales must remain dry during construction and occupancy. It requires skilled plastering and airtightness detailing. This is all detail. This is a lightweight way to make a roof. Then it's covered with pond liner and turf. Won't get into that here, but that's another roofing method. Simply mud bricks that have dried in the sun. The forms can also be keystone-shaped for arches. The plaster mix is 30% sand, 30% clay, 30% lime or gypsum as a wet putty, and 10% sawdust or biochar. Straw is optional in compressed bricks. I like to add it and also biochar. I use the same tarp mixing method as for cob. The bricks can be sun-dried before they go in the wall, but they don't need to. If you don't dry them, it is like cob, and you should not raise the wall more than half a meter before allowing it a few days to dry. A clay mix is used for mortar. In earthquake regions, they put round stones between layers to act as ball bearings, allowing the wall to move and resettle without cracking or crumbling. The stones also help the mortar dry faster. Here we are doing a wattle and daub top where the bricks are too heavy to lift above our heads. For a roof, we used an old satellite dish. Then a carpet sandwich around the pond liner or plastic tarp. And here we are, a finished compost toilet or a time machine for Doctor Who. Plant fibers primarily improve crack control and toughness. Cow manure fibers can reduce shrinkage in earthen mortars, and biochar mainly adds stable carbon and porosity. Their effects depend strongly on dosage and mix design, and none replaces a stable, dry, well-compacted floor or wall base. In Mexico, I learned a number of ways they use long straw coated with clay sand and earth. Some of these structures are 600 years old. For Zacatlantaloli long, straw coated with clay is braided like rope and woven between upright wattle posts. I have visited buildings in volcanic, earthquake areas of Mexico that are made in this way. It is not insulating, so better for the tropics or decorative walls. This is my favorite because it is cheap, durable, easy, fun, and artistic. I first learned to do this from Nadir Khalili. He was asked by NASA to design habitats for a moon base. For Nadir, using bagged moon dust was the best solution. Simple method is to dig a drainage, make a foundation, fill base bags with gravel, set in walls, tamp and plumb them, and plaster and roof it. Does not have to be a beehive or a dome, it can be any shape. Earth bag stacking dates back over 100 years, originally used by the military for flood control and bunkers because it was cheap, fast, and bullet resistant. In the 1980s, Nader Khalili popularized permanent earth bag building at Cal Earth by combining ancient dome/arch methods with sandbags and barbed wire super adobe. This is what I used for 20 years. Hyperadobe has now replaced super adobe in many projects. The price works out to €250 per 500-meter roll plus shipping. For a large house, €2,500. For a chicken coop or shed, €500. That is your main materials cost. A little cement, the doors and windows, and the roof completes the cost of the structure. The roof may cost as much as the walls. Rammed earth is still used in much of the world, but I think Hyperadobe makes it obsolete because you no longer need to do all the formwork, lifts, and takedowns. Hempcrete or papercrete can be done like rammed earth or even Hyperadobe, but it can also be made into bricks, which is the most common way of using it. Again, I like to put biochar in my mix. cordwood walls have parallel heat flow paths through wood, mortar, and cavity insulation. Exposed log ends and wood mortar movement also make water control and air sealing central design issues. A continuous insulated layer is generally more reliable than asking the cordwood itself to provide all thermal control. My experience with earthships is that they are beautiful and fun to build with a group of people, but a lot of labor. You may only want to do that once in your life. Bamboo has tens of thousands of uses, employs 1/6 of the global workforce, has varieties that grow in nearly every climate, is the fastest growing form of land biomass, draws carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. If not used for construction, can be food or fiber. No country which employs bamboo is poor. To provide owner-built homes for the 100 million people now without adequate housing, the area needed to grow bamboo for 1 year is less than the area annually being clear-cut in the Caribbean rainforests of Belize, Honduras, and Colombia each year. Each year it puts twice as much carbon into the below ground as it has in mass above ground. The roots themselves are very useful. This is the old way. This has been called a Chinese greenhouse because it is common in China. But I started building these in 1973. You put the clear wall towards the sun and the back wall should insulate. This is the same principle used in earthships. We use straw bale for our insulating north wall. Note the walkways are below the raised beds, which provides better drainage. Outside, we mix our compost teas and effective microorganisms. The garden fencing is necessary to keep out deer. This is an addition to a straw bale building. The foundation is rammed tires. Above the gravel trench and tires is a super adobe wall and timber frame. Above the super adobe is straw bale on the north wall. Then cob on the south, east, and west walls. We also used adobe on the southwestern corner. Note the arched earthen doggy door. We eventually converted that to utility access when we installed a kitchen there. This is our hobbit house, the Green Dragon. It began as a cob workshop, but it evolved.
And the nice thing about cob is you can mold it to any shape. You can make it into circular shapes or arches or different forms, depending on what your aesthetic needs might be. So it's not confined to a rectangular brick form. It can be any shape that you care to do tapered, rounded, around the corners of windows, massive walls, whatever you care. That's the advantage of cob. You can also have fireplaces, like this Siberian wood stove, which has a Mayan image glyph done to it. And it's just a circulating wood stove where the air comes in through a port over here and into the firebox, and then it circulates through the cob interior as it travels up and then out through the smokestack, but the heat is gathered in the thermal mass and passed on to the rest of the building through connectivity of the thermal mass. Here's the back side of that wood stove, and we've got some places where the stovepipe is revealed to the outside, and as it heats up, it turns red, and then it can even turn white hot. The steel heats up, and then you get these red eyes or these white eyes coming out into the room. This is a secondary firebox, but it's actually used just to bake bread or something like that. And this is all connected. The cob is a thermal mass, and it connects out to the various parts of the building so that as the heat from the stove warms the clay around the immediate firebox, that clay then transmits its heat into the thermal mass of the surrounding structure. And you can see up at the top, we're actually using earth bags, and the entire structure is ringed at the top where the roof meets the clay wall with an earth bag concentric ring. That's for added strength. That's compression strength, so that the building itself compresses in on itself and holds to that ring, regardless of how the land may shift over time.
Dear friend Francesco demonstrates the correct texture for plaster, whether it's cement or clay or lime. You form what is eventually called a cardinal's hat, which is the correct form for plaster. In Mexico, we learned to make exterior clay plasters that can withstand tropical rain. Base or rough coat. Trowel, then natural paint, then trowel. Rub the wall as many as 6 times with spray water bottle or cactus juice. In Mexico, they use plastic bread wrappers or soft plastic like yogurt lids. These make a mirror finish. At the Damanhur eco-village in Italy, they use lime plasters to tell stories. We don't put a lime plaster directly on straw because it reacts. Instead, we use a gypsum plaster, which is not reactive. I prefer hybrid buildings. The practical choice is a layered building system. Use dense earth primarily for thermal mass, fibrous low-density materials for insulation, a designed frame for seismic load paths, and moisture-safe detailing. The durable integrated system, a reliable structure, adequate insulation, continuous water control, controlled drying, safe finishes, maintainable details, and honest performance.